I shall now give a few winning positions taken from my own games. I have selected those that I believe can be considered as types, i.e., positions that may easily occur again in a somewhat similar form. A knowledge of such positions is of great help. In fact, one cannot know too many. It often may help the player to find, with little effort, the right move, which he might not be able to find at all without such knowledge. It is Black's move, and as he is a knight and pawn behind, he must win quickly, if at all. He plays the d-file rook to g8. If Queen takes e7, bishop to d5, and mate follows in a few moves. Rook to f2. Black's last move was pawn to e3, played with the object of stopping what he thought was White's threat, namely rook to a5, to which he would have answered queen to f4 and drawn the game by perpetual check. White, however, has a more forceful move, and he mates in 3 moves as follows. Rook takes a7. White has a beautiful position, but still he had better gain some material, if he can, before Black consolidates his defensive position. He therefore plays rook takes h6, king to e7. If knight takes h6, rook takes h6, and Black would be helpless. Black resigns. In these few examples, the attacking has been done by rooks and bishops in combination with the queen. There have been no knights to take part in the attack. We shall now give some examples in which the knights play a prominent part as an attacking force. White is 2 pawns behind. He must therefore press on his attack. The game continues. The f-file knight takes g7, knight to c5. Evidently an error which made the winning easier for White, as he simply took the rook with the knight and kept up the attack. Black should have played knight takes g7. Then would have followed knight to f6, check. Best. Knight to e4, and Black should lose. The student should carefully examine the position, as the sacrifice of the bishop in similar situations is typical, and the chance for it is of frequent occurrence in actual play. The game continues. Bishop takes h7, check. King to g6, best. If king to h6, knight takes f7 check wins the queen. And if king to g8, queen to h5 with an irresistible attack. White finally won. We have so far given positions where the attacks were of a violent nature and directed against the king's position. Very often, however, in the middle game, attacks are made against a position or against pieces or even pawns. The winning of a pawn among good players of even strength often means the winning of the game. Hence, the study of such positions is of great importance. We give below 2 positions in which the attack aims at the gain of a mere pawn as a means of ultimately winning the game. Black is a pawn behind, and there is no violent direct attack against White's king. Black's pieces, however, are very well placed and free to act, and by coordinating the action of all his pieces, he is soon able not only to regain the pawn, but to obtain the better game. The student should carefully consider this position and the subsequent moves. It is a very good example of proper coordination in the management of forces. The game continues. Rook to a8. White's best move was pawn to b3, when would follow knight takes d2. Rook to a3, and black would ultimately win the queen-rook pawn, always keeping a slight advantage in position. Pawn to a4. The text move makes matters easier. Black could have regained the pawn by playing bishop takes c3, but he sees that there is more to be had, and therefore increases the pressure against White's queen side. He now threatens, among other things, rook takes b2, threatening to win the exchange by bishop to d4. This threatens to win the knight, and thus forces White to give up the exchange. Now black will recover his pawn. An examination of this position will show that black's main weakness lies in the exposed position of his king, and in the fact that his queen's rook has not yet come into the game. Indeed, if it were black's move, we might conclude that he would have the better game on account of having 3 pawns to 2 on the queen's side and his bishop commanding the long diagonal. It is, however, White's move, and he has 2 courses to choose from. The obvious move, bishop to c4, might be good enough, since, after bishop to c4, rook to d8, pawn to b4 would make it difficult for black. But there is another move which completely upsets black's position and wins a pawn, besides obtaining the better position. That move is knight to d4. The game continues as follows. Knight to b4. There is nothing better, as White threatened bishop to c4. And White, with the better position, is a pawn ahead. These positions have been given with the idea of acquainting the student with different types of combinations. I hope they will also help to develop his imagination, a very necessary quality in a good player. The student should note, in all these middle game positions, that, once the opportunity is offered, all the pieces are thrown into action en masse when necessary, and that all the pieces smoothly coordinate their action with machine-like precision. That, at least, is what the ideal middle game play should be, if it is not so altogether in these examples.